She stepped out and disappeared. And he reappeared. He was already in the attic of the palace. Step up again. A figure suddenly appeared in the palace lane again. It's like an erratic light. Very mysterious. Those two princes. Maybe you can make this dragon energy a little stronger. Distant sky. A figure in white clothes floats in the air. He is the great Kin-State Master Jinghu Shuyu. He is also the most powerful person in Darkin today. It is rumored that his cultivation level is even better than Wang Daoyang. He was the person Wang Daoyang specially invited to protect him after he was defeated by Eva. I hope those two princes can delay her for some time. This girl is too weird. The means are truly unprecedented. Eva turned her head and looked at Shuyu. A cold expression on his face reveals indifference. Seems to be looking at a building ant. Where are you looking? Honey, at this moment. An angry roar suddenly sounded in her ears. Sword 3. A wind blows. A wind explodes. A swipe up pieces of green tiles. Michael suddenly appears. He raised his sword and struck violently across the way. This sword is extremely fast. Unexpected. She didn't even feel the slightest breath before Michael's words rang out. A surging sword light passes through Eva's figure and reaches the sky. There was no trace of joy on Michael's face. The strong wind caused by the sword light blew away Eva's figure. His sword seemed to have struck a patch of starlight. Sure enough, it's not that simple. The starlight gathers on the tower in the distance. Eva appears again. There was curiosity in his indifferent eyes. To be able to have such a good fortune in a mortal body. Rare indeed. But that's all. Mortal body. Michael took a nap. What he couldn't stand the most was Eva's condescending attitude. It's as if everything in the world is just passing by in her eyes. Oi, you Tia. I'm asking my mother for advice today. A strong wind blew his long flowing hair, revealing the pale and lifeless face. This moment, a noisy wind is a sword. The flowing long hair is a sword. The rolling palace wall is a sword. But Michael disappears. Those flash activates. Along the road, palace walls and attic shattered into nothingness. Countless sword skills are used at the same time. There is a feeling of annihilation. The mirror flowers and the moon in the distance raise a hand to offer a water nearer. Block out the aftermath. Very shocked face. He was so strong during the key training period. What a freak. Your Majesty really underestimated him. Prince's mansion? The aftermath just swept over. The formation runes that Noah worked so hard to arrange were all destroyed by the sword energy. The two princes scurried around like frightened cats. Escape. Go to the harem. My father doesn't allow anyone to enter the harem, although Liam is afraid of being liquidated by Wang Daoyang afterwards. And at this moment, I also know that there is no other way. I can only take Nathan and follow closely behind Noah. And most of them were turned into blood mist before they could react. Only a few people with high cultivation levels escaped. This is just the aftermath power. As for the center of the battlefield, only the sound of swords is left. Nothing more. Amidst the countless sword sounds, a soft shout sounded out. Starlight frozen. Eva's aquabook is flipping in front of her. Magical ripples spread from her side. All sword energy. Smoke and dust suddenly stopped. She gently raised the golden sword in her hand and raised it upwards. As easy and casual as if you wave it casually. A piece of bright starlight floats out from the long sword. A place where stars shine. All things disappear. Even the water mirror of mirror flowers and water moon ripples violently. Michael raised his hand. A huge black hole appears in the hand. All the starlight facing me was swallowed up. But this can only block it for a moment. The black hole without phase will always be full. The cold light sword lies in front of me. A ghost shadow. Whoosh. His figure disappeared in an instant. And he reappeared. He was already in front of Eva. The tip of the cold sword pierced into the starlight. The blade of the sword was burned red by the intense heat. But he went straight to Eva's heart. As a few inches away, the aqua blue magic book stood up in front of the cold light. The sound of metal clashing sounded. The cold light sword was shattered. Countless sharp fragments scattered in all directions. Michael holds Hongguang's remaining sword hilt in his right hand. His left hand touched the broken sword blade. The blood condensed along his palm and once again formed a blood-red sword blade. Kill. A bloody sword slashed out. One of the pages in the aqua blue law book was torn and flew away. Snort. Yao's who. Eva's golden sword shines brightly. The countless gems spinning around the tail of the sword suddenly stopped. These originally messy gems suddenly formed a fire phoenix totem. The color of the long sword changes from gold to reed. Raging flames burst out. Michael's sword condensed with blood was instantly evaporated. His body was burned into charcoal by the flames and fell. Then Shuyu protective water mirror exploded with dense cracks. He flicked his sleeves and took back the water mirror. Eyes full of heartache. What a pervert. It's a pity that this can only go so far. At this time, the thunder clouds in the sky above the Kyonkun Palace have gradually become thinner. The golden dragon swims in the thunder clouds. The powerful aura of entering the Tao escapes out, and Dao Yang is about to enter Taoism. He no longer pays attention to the charred figure on the ground. Instead, he turned his head and looked in the direction of Qian Kanho. That's all. It doesn't hurt to have the less Princess Dragon energy. She stepped out. A figure in place is extinguished like a flame. It was the fire ignited beside Jing Shuiyu. The latter immediately made a gesture with both hands. The endless water in the mouth spurted towards the flame. The fire was extinguished by floods. A fiery red sword flew out of the water. A jewel above rotates. The fire phoenix totem turned into a black turtle. The power of the two star-catching realms is extremely terrifying. The originally majestic Qian Palace was suddenly turned into a huge pit. Then it turned into a lake. On the ground, the charred figure's fingers trembled. It hurts. Michael got up hard. His skin is cracked. Her body is broken and almost looks like a human being. But the corners of his mouth were raised high, revealing a set of big white teeth. Black palms spread out. 7 gems as round as stars were held in his hands. These gems are extremely beautiful, exuding 7 colors of soft light. There are so many gems on her sword. You shouldn't be able to tell if there are one or two missing. Michael whispered. At one time, he swallowed all the gems in his hand. Hide first. I'll come at it later. Open the other hand. Inside was a page of aqua blue paper that he had chopped off. This thing is quite magical too. It should be a good thing. Thinking of this, he crumpled the paper into a ball. Open your mouth and swallow it too. It's extremely unsafe to put a baby like this in a storage bag. In that battle just now, his storage bag was almost exploded. Other monks usually enter the Kisi. And where did he get the Kisi during his key training period? You can only use this crude method. The air battle continues. Jao Shui, he was completely pressed and beaten, and only barely supported. I didn't feel much when watching the game before. Now that he actually fights Ava, he realizes how powerful this woman is. Totally unreasonable. This is simply not the strength that reaching for the stars should have. He took out his water mirror to resist. As a result, the water mirror was broken into pieces. The frames are all melted into scrap metal. Later, he used the secret treasure Tianshu for protection. The giant snail was melted into fly ash by starlight. His white silk clothes were even burned with holes all over. A raging power rules across the sky. Just then, Dao Yang stood in the void, gazed down like lightning. Little sister, it's time to end. The saints will not come out. The road to immortality is closed. Entering the Tao is the sky in this sky. He is extremely confident now, full of spiritual energy, as if endless. Raise your hands in a natural way. Every move contains the charm of Taoism. Michael swallowed, a look of admiration on his face. Enter the Tao, a realm that many of heaven's proud men long to reach. Control the world, suppress the world. So handsome, although I am jealous. But Michael still looked away with difficulty, looking at the huge golden dragon entrenched above the Qian Kanho. I feel the beating of the dragon vein golden elixir. Boom! Dao Yang joins the battle. The strength of both sides finally reached a balance. No one thought that Ava could fight Wang Dao Yang, who had entered the Tao. By the way, the cell mirror image, although the 3 of them were inseparable from each other. But I want to steal the golden elixir from under the noses of the 3 of them. Still too difficult. This golden dragon doesn't seem to be weak either. Michael Sidon did not move rashly. Instead, he controlled me as sword energy and began to sew up his body. As the saying goes, the new 3 years. Old 3 years. 3 more years of sewing and mending. I still can't let go of this appearance. You won't die this way. You are really lucky. A hoarse and rough voice sounded behind Michael. The person who came was wearing a dark windbreaker. Even the face is hidden in the windbreaker. You can indeed control the city defense formation. In that case, why don't you let your master in? Not me. The storm wind made the windbreaker wrestle, roll up the corner of his face hood, revealing Wei Shaoan's rather resolute face. This is the helping hand Michael found. Our master is timid. I can't stand this kind of scene. Michael still lowered his head to suture the wound. Looked serious and solemn. What to do next? Juan glanced at the air battle. Looks unusually solemn. If it weren't for Michael's need to save his life, even if you beat him to death, he won't get involved in the bad things here. No matter who wins in the end, he is still the left Prime Minister of Qin, holding supreme power. You go and stop them later. I'm going to kill the golden dragon. Hit the Dragon Ball. Wei Shaoan's eyes white-wound. The shameless words in my heart don't know whether to say it or not. That's a Taoist entry. The big stars. Moreover, one of the Star Reachers can suppress the entrance to fight. You'll let me stop it. Seeing the resistance on Wei Shaoan's face, I can look contemptuous. Are all those who are reaching for the stars these days so timid? It's better to rely on yourself than to rely on anyone else. And I'll stop you. You go kill the dragon and get the pearl. Remember, you only have 10 breaths. After that, Michael stood up. Rested for so long. Enough. He walked towards the Kion Kanhol. Wei Zhuan stopped where he was and looked at the lumpy figure. How sure are you? And Michael didn't look back. Didn't speak either. Rasp. Pretty sure. But so, what if you're not sure? He wasn't sure when he swallowed the medicine to refine his ki. Everything needs to be grasped. How is that any different from someone else feeding food into their mouths? Don't worry. Prime Minister Zuo, I am very sure. Dragon Pill is at your fingertips. I just need you to collect it for me now. Michael's tone was arrogant and confident. It's like reaching for the stars and becoming a Taoist. But in his eyes, it's just mediocre. If it weren't for his charred body. And he really believed it when he looked like he was crippled with tumors. Throat. Out on the pirate ship. Michael doesn't care what Wei Zhuan thinks. He walked to the Qiankan Palace and looked up at the fighting in the sky. Come on, you guys. Only those who win can challenge this immortal. At this time, he seemed to regard himself as the final boss. Let's wait for the 3 of them to fight and both sides will suffer. That's when he takes action to harvest. But 3 of them didn't make any move after hearing Michael's arrogant words. Maybe they felt that Michael couldn't make any waves from beginning to end. But Michael knew that he had entered the Qiankan Palace. In the sky, Wang Daoyang offered the Great Conceal. Ava offers Aqua Blue Book. The 2 magic weapons collided and set off a violent force. There was a stalemate for a while. The figure of Flower and the Mirror and Moon in the water appeared from behind Avon's, at the ladder with her pawn. The golden sword in Ava's hand turns into endless starlight. It's like putting a golden dress on the Mirror Flower. Arter Moon. Starful. Boom. Thousands of stars exploded suddenly. The blood-stained figure of Jinghui Shuyu fell from the sky. Take action. Michael Ghost Flash activates. KYOKE Suyu, who was falling in the air, only felt a heavy weight on her abdomen. Michael has appeared on it. He stepped on KYOK Shuyu's abdomen with both feet, hands behind back, looking down at the ladder. Old Imperial Master, I haven't seen you for a long time. Jinghui Shuyu was horrified. He was just injured by Ava. All the spiritual energy is consumed. It was the time when he was the weakest in his life. But it happened that Michael got angry at this time. 5 of Swords. The hunt. Michael grinned, with Michael pressing his 5 fingers on his chest. The ribs on his chest turned into sharp swords, turning inside his body and stabbing at the sea of air. Evil bees. I dare. The 2 bodies fell to the ground at the same time, rolling smoke and dust tries. At the same time, Wei Zhuan, who was hiding in the Qiankan Palace, also took action. Behind him, a huge Dharma statue stood up, suddenly grabbing the golden dragon. Feeling the golden dragon crisis, Wang Daoyang and Ava's expressions changed drastically at the same time in the sky. The 2 are now in a stalemate. No matter who stops rashly, they will suffer heavy losses. It can be said that Michael grasped the timing of his action extremely accurately. Wei Zhuan, you dare to rebel against me? Wang Daoyang's angry roar exploded. His Majesty, I can't help myself either. Wei Zhuan answered while grabbing the golden dragon and smashing it. Hours around Qiankan Hall. Countless doors open at the same time. Tens of thousands of Imperial guards came out of it. This is Wang Daoyang's last barrier. He is the most trustworthy loyalist. The chief and deputy commanders of the Imperial Guard are both gods. All the sergeants under his command are above the Foundation level. Tens of thousands of people rushed to kill each other at the same time. And the momentum was overwhelming. King of Zenbi, stop them, Wei Zhuan yelled. Looks extremely solemn, even if his cultivation has reached the point of reaching the stars. But too many ants can kill an elephant. Once entangled by the guards, the consequences will be unimaginable. Okay. Now Sui is also a star catcher, shouting day by day. And Michael walked out of the smoke. He stood on the stone steps in front of the hall, facing tens of thousands of Imperial guards. He looked calm and calm. I have recently learned about the cactus given by my uncle. Occasional income. Understand the skill. Now I invite you all to enjoy it together. After saying that, he pulled back the charred clothes on his upper body a little, revealing the clear collarbone. Between the 2 collarbones, there is a silver-white silk thread that passes through the flesh and makes a butterfly. And Michael raised his hand to untie the knot for a moment. His skin started to crack from the silver threads. This thread is clearly the Mia sword energy used to sew the cracked skin. In just a moment, gradually, the pads of skin begin to fall off. There's no flesh and blood underneath the fallen skin. You can see the scarlet sword energy flowing slowly. What flows like blood is the blood-killing sword energy. It was a loud bang. The overwhelmed skin bursts. The bloody sword's energy flows out and spreads in all directions. Wait until the sword energy covers the earth. Only a jade-like withered skeleton remains in its original place. These are not real human bones either. It is formed from the condensed hunting sword energy. With its skull, the reed light stands in the sunken eye sockets. The originally invisible sword intention of breaking thoughts now exudes a deep cold light. Losing the restraint of skin, the black hair turns into silveren blade. Some are scattered on the ears. Some of them are scattered on the ground and flow with the bloody sword intent. Another, from the day I was born, you despise me for being mediocre, insulting the blood of the immortal vain emperor. All your gifts are gone today. I don't owe you anymore. As Michael's words fall, a long black sword slowly appeared behind him. The sword body is slender. The 7 eye-catching black holes on the sword slowly rotate, greedily sucking in the spiritual energy of this world. In the sky, River reaches out and makes a move. Aqua-blued armor book flies back. Our figure flashed far away to avoid Wang Daoyang's killing move, looking at the figure in front of Qiankan Palace with a complicated expression. She is the reincarnation of the Empress of Fairy Court. Everything in this world is doomed. Everything you see is a passerby. But now, she feels her mood fluctuating violently. Dao's heart is slightly shaken. This emperor will not be involved in this matter. She spoke calmly. The aqua-blue book rotates around her body, looks sacred and elegant. In front of Qiankan Hall, tens of thousands of Praetorian guards have already rushed into Michael's sword domain. This moment, a wind has risen. Murderous intent emerges in the seemingly peaceful sword field. A soldier stepped into the bloody water and his body was instantly melted by the blood-killing sword energy. Some soldiers were cut into pieces by floating silver wire. Some even died suddenly in the rush without touching anything. Everything looks weird and scary. Even the wind can scatter a body of flesh and blood. This moment, Michael uses himself as a boundary. Draw a forbidden area. The 2 commanders who transformed themselves into guards could only resist in the sword field, no matter how hard it is to do something. All Praetorian guards. Retreat. The transformed guard commander resisted the sword energy coming from all directions, ordered to retreat. Such a sword realm, even if there are more of them, but it will be in vain. This is the nemesis of the military formation, entering the king's sword domain. Still want to get out alive. It's just a fool's dream. And Michael's voice came from all directions. Every trace of sword energy is part of himself. At this moment, his own existence became extremely ethereal, difficult to find. Wang Daoyang looked solemn. Throughout the past and present, I have never heard of anyone giving up their flesh and blood to turn themselves into pure sword energy. If such a person dies, perhaps the place where he died will be considered an absolute no-go area. Tyler's sword energy is tangible, but the sword's intention is hard to dissipate without leaving a trace. Michael, you are apostate. I will kill you here today. Wang Daoyang held the Qin Emperor's seal and suppressed it towards the huge sword area. The seal is like a mountain. Even before the strong wind fell, it stirred up billowing smoke and dust. The golden runes on the seal that were ordered from heaven appeared. Disperse all approaching sword energy and dispel the bonds. In front of the temple, Michael looks up at the big seal in the sky. The hand bones without any flesh and blood grasp the black sword and rose into the sky. In the roar, Hong sword collides with seal. The Wuxian sword was shattered and flew back to the front of the palace. His skeleton composed of hunting sword energy shattered and exploded. Wang Daoyang's figure fell to the ground with the seal, frowning and staring around. Beside the Wuxian sword, countless blood-killing sword energy returns, forming a scarlet figure. Prince, hold on a little longer. I'll be fine soon. Behind him, a Fei Xianzhuang, riding on a golden dragon. Press the faucet with one hand. Use one hand to search for the location of the dragon till on the golden dragon's body. Michael draws out the Fei's left sword. The bloody body rushed towards Wang Daoyang. Chill. A wind blows. Ley line churning. Ear fluttering. All the raging sword energy moves with him at the same time. A whole imperial city is shaking. The only remaining houses in the palace were turned into ruins. The 2 figures are constantly fighting. Smoke and dust are flying everywhere you pass. The sword keeps roaring, although it seems that they are evenly matched for a while. But Michael's sword energy is constantly decreasing. Perhaps when his sword energy is not enough to condense his body, he will completely dissipate. He will definitely die today. Wang Daoyang's sword-pinching technique. Lincoln's sword was sacrificed by him. Wherever the sword sweeps, there is no break. Only the Fei's last sword can compete with it. At this moment, the golden dragon behind him suddenly let out a cry. A huge dragon body twisted and fell to the ground. Prince, at the dragon pill. Look, on towards the outside of the palace first. Outside the palace, Alexander lies on the aqua-blue array shield. Put a hand on Liu Mei to block the light. His eyes flickered and looked inside. She could only vaguely hear the violent sound of swords in the palace. I can't see anything. Just then, the shield of the formation suddenly shrank into the uterus again. Out. She got up hurriedly. I scanned around. Fine. Although the outside of the shield was crowded with officials who came to check. But no one paid attention to her. As the formation contracted, A flash of blood appeared and stopped in front of Alexander. His whole body is made up of the condensed electric red sword energy. Can't tell the appearance, but it gave her a sense of familiarity. What are you still doing? Take your senior sister with you to evacuate the Imperial City. After saying that, the bloody light turned into a torrent of sword energy again and went straight out of the city. At this time, they were all shocked by the scene of the Imperial Palace revealed in the formation. The originally tall and magnificent palace walls have all collapsed. Majestic and luxurious palaces and buildings in the palace have been turned into endless ruins. When the formation shrank to the scope of Kionkan Hall, it stopped again, and Dao Yan's angry and humble roar came from inside. Alexander glanced around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he quietly stepped back. Burn. Stab me to death. She patted her chest and hurried back to the second prince's mansion. At this time, Emily, Mia, and others were sitting together nervously. Seeing Alexander coming back, Emily quickly stepped forward to ask, "Where is the junior brother?" Junior brother. The whole day I just asked my junior brother. Don't pay much attention to her as a master. But how could she have time to explain to a few people at this time? He left the Imperial City. Let's hurry up too, if it's too late. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. Here, you little guys are coming with me too. Avoid being intercepted on the road. Several people quickly left the mansion. The servants left behind by the second prince were not disturbed. Other side, the blood-red sword energy drifts with the mountain wind. Finally, we stop by a stream in a dense forest outside the city. It looks very evil like this. It no longer has the tenderness and gentleness it once had. This, he whispered. Put your fingers gently into the water. The stream is boiling. A countless fish turned over and their white bellies floated up. Behind, Wei Zhuan walked out of the mountains and forests. He couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the fish floating in the stream. Your sword energy is like the plague. Not only is it difficult to dissipate, the spread is still strong. It's so scary. He threw out a golden elixir and Michael caught it in his hand. Golden elixir light flows. There seems to be a golden dragon shadow swimming inside the round. Shell, what are your plans next? You can't walk around the world with such a face, right? Michael puts away the elixir. He raised his head and looked at Wei Zhuan with bright eyes. The latter took half a step back. What do you want to do? Cold words sounded from Michael's mouth. Something left behind. Oh, die. Dense mountain forest. Wei Zhuan hid in a secret cave and shivered. He's quite a wolf at this time, wearing only a pair of obscene pants. The storage bag is also carried in the hand. It can't be hung without a belt. Damn, King's NBI. Even my clothes were taken away. A bad family. Shameless thing. How can I go out to meet people? Michael doesn't care about him that much. With Wei Shao's outfit, completely hide his figure. Nothing unusual can be seen from the outside. Should I talk about this generous windbreaker and hood? As if it was specially prepared for him. Walk to the mountain path. Choose a higher mountain peak. He looked up to the sky. I want to wait for a destined person. After all, it's a long way from here to King Shan. He can't always rely on the transformed sword energy to fly. Right? If it is seen by the hidden power, he will definitely be regarded as a demon cultivator. Over the mountains and forest hundreds of miles away from Michael, a flying boat is coming quickly. The direction seems to be the same as Michael's. Anthony sat on the ground on the flying boat, a handsome face with calmness and confidence. There were several Wanda, Osha, and disciples surrounding him. Everyone looked at the leader of the main peak with admiration. Brother Wu, you now have this blessing. Break into nascent soul in one fell swoop. It must be difficult to find an opponent among peers. Anthony waved his hand humbly. Dear brothers and sisters, we must know that great talents emerge in large numbers in the world. Who dares to say that his peers are invincible? Mr. Smalley, not worthy of such praise. The little fanboys and fanilers look more and more adoring. I just lamented that senior brother Lo not only has high cultivation level, strong fighting ability. So humble, it's really rare. Anthony looked at the mountains passing by quickly below his feet. I can't help but feel heroic in my heart. He stood up. When I walked to the bow of the boat, I wanted to recite a poem. The scenery is really beautiful. The system voice sounded in my mind. Host, please don't try to enter areas you are not good at. This will cause you to lose your reputation as the master of all arts. Anthony coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. System, receive rewards for this mission. Ask rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the unique skill of Sword Soul. Phantom Sword Dance. Anthony's eyes lit up. He is too familiar with Phantom Sword Dance. This was the level 45 ultimate move from Sword Soul in a mobile game he played in his previous life. Just a slight feeling. He was shocked again. This Phantom Sword Dance is too powerful. The difference from the game is that when this move is executed, countless phantoms will appear simultaneously. Makes it difficult to distinguish between true and false. Moreover, The sword energy struck by the phantom also carries considerable damage. This trick. Nothing to fear from Michael. Please, host, please don't compare yourself with people whose luck is minus 10 million. The Son of Destiny is the enemy of the host. Just then, Anthony's eyes widened slightly as he looked towards the mountains. He saw a bare mountain top. There seems to be a black-robed figure waving to face you. Senior brother. There seems to be someone below. Behind me, a junior sister with a soft voice spoke in surprise. Don't worry about him. I think it was a wild cultivator in the mountains who was on his way. Want to ride on, Ifyaiju? Although Anthony said this, but my heart became weary. He felt a sense of extreme danger from the other party. You must know that now he has become a nascent soul. Cross-border killing and transforming gods are easy. I'll make him feel in crisis. The other party is at least as good as reaching the stars. The flying boat flashed over Michael's head. The speed is even faster than before. And Michael's raised hand slowly lowered. I subconsciously touched the cold light sword, but it came up empty. Utter pity, if not broken. It may become a Taoist weapon in the future. In the few seconds he was stunned. A flying boat has flown far away. Michael doesn't foresee it either. Leave, just leave. The next one will be better. He chose the perfect location. I can't believe that I can't wait for the next destined person. This time he didn't raise his hand. Instead, scarlet sword energy flows out from the sleeves of the robe, turned into a red sword. Soon, a spaceship approaches again in the distance. This spaceship is bigger than the previous one. The boat body is pure white. It is inlaid with countless flowing gems. Looks extremely luxurious. On the boat, a woman sitting upright. She wears a cyan-beaded veil. Can't see the face clearly. A Cavasier's figure is wearing a white robe. The hem of the white robe is very long, almost covered the entire spaceship deck. There are even parts hanging down along the edge of the flying boat. There are 4 maids standing on the deck near the cabin. They all hold swords in their hands. Look solemn. Looks extremely solemn. As the airship approached the top of the mountain where Michael was, a flash of sword light shot across the sky. The flying boat suddenly stopped. Yifeng Zhao dared to block the road. Her sword-wielding maids stood up with their swords drawn. Just don't wait for their next move. Oliver fell to the ground, unconscious. I don't know when a figure in black robes was already standing there on the bow of the ship. A woman sitting on the deck opened her eyes. Her pupils are dark green. Looks very beautiful. Michael took a look at the layout on the ship, and he looked at the veiled woman in the center and said something strange. Let this be some kind of cult organization. How do you make it so fancy? Woman stood up. Hold the cross in front of you. Make a step forward with your left leg and bend slightly. Looks extremely elegant. Under ocean blue and white flowers. Let's see yours. Michael frowns. Rain spinning wildly. We have such a number one person in Wanda Ocean. After thinking for a long time, his eyes finally lit up. He hurriedly walked forward and looked at the blue and white flowers. But the other party is wearing a veil. Can't see clearly either. You are green-skinned and white-clothed. The goddess apprentice of Sword Fairy Andrew. Ingbiai did not answer. Instead, his eyes were staring straight at Michael's feet. Senior, you stepped on my robe. My robe stained with filth. Goddess will punish you. I clasped with interest. I am the goddess of heaven. All women in this world are goddesses. Self-improvement and self-love. Anyone who believes in a goddess can be a goddess, and you'll be punished. The atmosphere on the boat was silenced by Michael's words. He stepped on the skirts of clothes scattered everywhere, looking forward to the so-called goddess's punishment. A long time, Michael impatiently threw a spiritual stone at King Bia. Okay, I think you are quite a coward today. This is the toll. Take me to Wanda Ocean, under the veil. But King Bi, who sniffed angrily. Michael still stepped on her clothes. But I couldn't beat him and I could only sit back down with sadness and anger. Damn, as the spiritual stone. Little poor guy, dare to step on my aunt's clothes. When my aunt succeeds in cultivation, I will pee on your face. Asshole, Bao Bangzi, the coward who only dares to cover his face with a black robe. Strong men bully weak women. Nonsense, she whispered quietly. Lips keep moving, like reciting some mysterious mantra. Michael turned around and glared at King Bia. From the moment he boarded the ship, his sword energy spread throughout the ship. No movement on the ship could escape his eyes. Why are you cursing? There is a flying boat ahead. Chase me. Ihua, shut up quickly. She doesn't want to die at such a young age. Sir, you heard wrong. I was just reciting the incantation taught by the goddess. It is said that when the world first opened, the first person in the world is a woman. She uses the sky as her quilt. Make the ground your bed. Writing this spell successfully gave birth to a second human being. Sir, do you think this second human being is male or female? Michael raised his hand impatiently to interrupt. Now regrets boarding this spaceship. This made him resent his own flying boat for ignoring him just now. But nonsense. Hurry up and catch up with me. Not understanding the style. King Bi who whispered again. But it did speed up the speed of the flying boat. Achon Ba Ikayu is a top-grade treasure. Not only beautiful in appearance, in terms of speed, it is also unique in world-EP05-a. I got into trouble once. You should know my master, right? Sword Fairy Andrew. Not only the grass of our world-EP mountains. That swordsmanship is even more superb. That's all. I chased this goddess for 3 days. I was so tired that I contracted tuberculosis. Once she started driving back, she couldn't stop. I'm FEI to Master. Master told me about the 8 diagrams of the female cultivators of world-EP05-a mountain. And from those female cultivators' gossip to their disciples, I could just ignore it at first. I became increasingly irritated later on. Anyone who practices immortality, who is not cold and aloof. How could there be someone who talks nonsense like this? Enough. And Michael stood up angrily. The black-robed figure flashed in front of King Bi. King Bi who looked shocked. What was that you want to do? Although I am beautiful and fragrant, extraordinary beauty, but I'm still young. Many places are not yet mature. Before King Bi who finished speaking, Michael waved his hand. The green bead curtain covering his face was thrown aside. It looks just like she said. National beauty and heavenly fragrance. Absolutely beautiful. But it's a pity that I have a mound. A wisp of white sword energy floated up and was caught between Michael's fingers. He brushed the blue and white flowers on red lips with his sword energy fingers. The sword energy sewed up the latter's entire mouth like silk thread. No matter how hard she struggled, Michael remained unmoved. A figure flashed back to the bow of the ship again, even with its own shot. He still felt annoyed. I want to stay as far away from her as possible. The 4 swordsmen who woke up were holding long swords, standing in front of the cabin shivering. I want to step forward to rescue King Bi, but I don't dare. The flying boat traveled for half a day. You can already see the shadow of the previous spaceship ahead. Michael grinned. I finally caught up with you. Dare to refuse to carry me. I'll chop you alive. A bloody sword's airflow transforms into a big leg. He pulls the bowstring. A bone spur on the index finger slowly grows and turns into an arrow. On the flying boat ahead, Anthony is telling stories to his junior brothers and sisters. Beyond King Shan is the world of rivers and lakes. But this is not the world of martial arts, but the world of monks. Nature is extremely dangerous. The experience of brothers and sisters in the world is a valuable asset. The road is dangerous. Outside is no better than in the mountains. Hill people and seize treasures. Arresting people to refine medicine happens from time to time. Just like just now. The monk on the top of the mountain is most likely a roadblock. You senior brothers. Although I am not capable enough to detect this, but who knows if there are more evil cultivators hiding in those mountains. He was talking happily. Suddenly I feel like I'm being targeted by a murderer. Brother is not feeling well. There is a flying boat coming up from behind. The junior sister. Don't panic. Let me take a look. Anthony jumped on top of the cabin and looked back. The white shipbuilding is quite familiar when I see it. The expression on his face softened slightly, revealing a calm smile. In fact, it's junior sister King's boathouse. He just breathed a sigh of relief. And he saw an arrow missing from the shipbuilding behind him and shooting towards him. Its speed is as fast as thunder. The arrow ripples in the air along its path. Under the big kid at heart, the sword isn't sheathed. Phantom sword dance. Anthony's figure is divided into 3. The clone and the main body draw swords at the same time. This sword technique is extremely fast. When swinging the long sword, only after images can be seen. Countless crescent-shaped sword energy condense in front of him. With his loud shout, all the sword energy shoots away. Boom! Crescent sword energy and arrows collide in the air. Violent explosions resounded throughout the sky. The surrounding space turned into a blazing fire. In the afterglow of this bright explosion, there was a halberdic arrow shooting from it. Anthony's expression changed drastically and it was too late to use other moves. The arrow missed and was blocked by Phantom sword dance, and the aim was slightly deflected. As he fell down, he penetrated Anthony's and stepped diagonally. Ouch! I know. It hurts me to death. Anthony gritted his teeth and hugged his feet, staring at the white flying boats behind with an ugly expression. As soon as they had a confrontation, he realized that he was no match. System. Check the opponent's combat strength. System scanning. Name. I'm Michael the Swordman. Realm. Second level of key training. Combat power. Ashma. Practice exercises. None. Emotional state. Doubtful with some eagerness to try. Dog system. Who told me that this combat power is only 18? The big departure. Anthony cursed in his heart. Michael again. Every time you meet this guy, nothing good will happen. And this bastard is always like this. I didn't even see who it was before I drew my sword at my sword. Fortunately, he is quite capable. If it had been anyone else, I'm afraid they would have been wiped out long ago. Although I feel extremely unhappy. There was a smile on his face, holding the feet with one hand and waving to the back with the other. Ouch. A flood washed away the Dragon King Temple. Brother Hutian, it's me, Anthony. At this time, Michael had already put down his longbow. As early as when he shot Anthony, he had already sensed the opponent's identity through his sword energy. His figure flashed on Anthony's flying boat. Brother Wuji, we were detained together by Han Finrong. It can be considered that we share the island world. But Brother Wuji left in a hurry at that time. I didn't have a good time reminiscing with you. Anthony's heart skipped a beat. Although this sounds nice, and it's sarcastic. He complained that she had left without taking him with her. Harmful. I blame my master for this matter. He said that Brother Hutian had Uncle Mu spend money to redeem him. Let's talk about Brother Hutian's method of crossing the flying boat just now. It's quite similar to the sword skill I used. Of course Michael knows what Anthony is talking about. Can it be similar? Brother Wuji, the sword skills you used just now were quite dazzling. I don't know what the name is. At the mention of Phantom Sword Dance, Anthony's face flashed with pride. Products produced by the system must be high-quality product, naturally capable and good-looking. This sword skill is called Phantom Sword Dance. It's my own creation. The sword moves like a dance. The sword comes out like a phantom. Occasional income. That's worth mentioning. Phantom Sword Dance. Michael secretly wrote down the name. Avoid calling the wrong sword move when using it in the future. The two of them were chatting about one thing or another. Anthony's junior brothers and sisters all stay far away. Looking at the arrows stuck on the back of his feet, I felt a little scared. Mein Fang, Defiaju. A blue and white flower's sewn-up mouth can finally be opened. She angrily picked up the mask from the side and put it on. Damn it. Get out of here. I got a sector's at odds with you. Slow down the speed of the flying boat. Let that bastard go first. Prevent him from coming back to haunt me again. Yutian glanced at Efiaju, who was parked behind him, and something flashed in his eyes. After boarding Anthony's boat, who cares about those nagging women? The flying boat crossed the last city of Dak in undented Kingshan. The scenery in front of you becomes different. Although there were mountains and jungles in the territory under the direct jurisdiction of Dakin, but there are villages and cities every certain distance. Once you enter the Kingshan Mountains, you will see greenery everywhere. Occasionally there are lofts hidden among the peaks. There are many sects in Kingshan. Most powerful one is Wanda Ocean. Hermione then, return to the Holy Land. As Wanda Ocean approaches, Michael becomes more and more eager to return home. He feels like he hasn't seen Olivia for a long time. Miss you very much. On the edge of the sword, Alexander and others have returned. It's just that Huachenevi left on his own after entering Kingshan and returned to Red Maple Valley. Only me, a brother and sister, came to Jianfeng as guests. Bamboo Forest Path. Olivia sweeps the fallen leaves on the road with a broom. She quickly threw the broom aside and greeted the people who came to wield swords in the air. Masu, senior sister. Several people jumped down and their flying swords landed in the forest. They looked at Olivia with a slightly strange look. I saw the little girl hiding behind Emily quite shyly. Only half of his head was exposed and he looked at me and his brother. David, this is Olivia. He looked around in confusion. This sword peak is quite desolate. There are only a few bamboo houses. There seems to be no one else except the little girl in front of me. There is only one Olivia in this sword. Seeing Emily nodding, Mia still couldn't believe it. Ask again, what happened to junior sister Mia? Of course I only have one Olivia in Jianfeng. Without, nothing. Mia shook her head in embarrassment. When she was in the Imperial City, she often heard Michael pronounce Olivia. I originally thought that Olivia would be a stunning beauty. Thinking of this, she looked a little ugly. A ridiculous thought flashed through my mind. Would it be? Damn it. Yutian is definitely not that kind of person. Not that kind of person. Emily came forward and asked curiously. Mia glanced at Olivia, face a little blushing. He nearly understands. When I go out with this guy, I don't think about myself and master. Instead, he was thinking about little Olivia, junior sister Mia. My junior brother is that kind of person. You must keep your eyes open. The two siblings just settled down in Jianfeng. Now Joshua takes David to Kanglan Peak. Alexander and the other three are the only ones left here. They don't look too reserved. And usually Alexander hangs out with her old best friends. Emily is focused on practicing. The mountains are even more deserted. Mia looks at the mountain trails every day. I am very worried about whether Michael can come back safely. Until 7 days later, Mia was a little bored and wandered on the mountain trail. She was taken aback for a moment as her delicate body suddenly appeared as she walked. In the clearing of the bamboo forest, there was a man in black robes squatting on the ground staring at the bamboo leaves. Although the man was covered in black robes, but that focused look, who else could it be besides the dog man? Pain suddenly popped out on her face. Some can't hide their anger. I've been worriedly waiting for you for 7 days on the mountain. As a result, you were touching the shrunken flowers at the foot of the mountain. Or simply not a human being. When did you come back? Michael turned his head. Seeing Mia's face light up. It's Mia. Come see what I found. A very straightened, handsome bamboo leaf. I asked you when you came back. Tore it. Been back for 3 or 4 days. What the hell? Mia can't hold it any longer. She really wants to raise her sword and to kill this bastard now. News of the changes in the Great Qin dynasty also spread. Hang Daoyang was defeated in a battle with Ava. His cultivation was sealed by the latter and thrown into the immortal forest. Ava becomes emperor. The eldest prince and the second prince were both placed under house arrest. As for the third prince, he escaped the night of becoming emperor. A fourth prince wrote a letter of congratulations after returning from Xingyu Pass. He expressed willingness to surrender. By the way, I went Kryant to cry about my poverty. Ava sent a large number of spiritual stones to stabilize the situation. At this point, the power of Qin dynasty fell by the wayside. I heard that countless veterans fainted from crying outside the immortal forest, but none of the late emperors appeared. Michael has no comment on this matter. Everyone has his own destiny. But he influenced the fate of countless people. A dragon pill was placed on the first hole of the Wuxian sword by him. It adds a lot of power to this evil sword. As for the 7 gems stolen from Ava's scepter, after being refined, it floats behind it to form a ring that slowly rotates. Looks quite magical. It contains the power of 7 attributes, respectively gold, wood, starlight, underground lightning. Alexander, come and fight. Now Michael feels terrifyingly strong. If you open Master's bamboo house, you will have to compete with him. Emily and Olivia both trembled as they watched Alexander's bamboo house explode to pieces. Mia and Lily returned to Reed Maple Valley and did not see the shocking battle. Broken bamboo house floor. Ichioshian rides on Michael and raises fist and hammer. Alexander held down Michael's hands to prevent him from counterattacking. Hateful. You fight 2 against 1 without respecting martial ethics. Let go of me. What's wrong with the hitting you and 1? I seen your brother is still the leader of Wanda-Osha Inn. I can attract a group of star hunters with just 1 word. What are you fighting with me for? When you come out to hang out, you need to talk about your background. Talk about power. A beating continued late into the night. Now his flesh and blood are all made of sword energy. Very durable. The old sisters had a great time fighting. On the 3rd day, on the boulder at the foot of the mountain, Michael denounced Ichioshian and Alexander's violent behavior. Ifon secretly smacked his lips as he listened. Then why didn't you use the power of sword domain at that time? Michael scratched his head in frustration. The scope of the sword domain is too large. If I use the terrifying sword, I will not be able to protect myself. Actually, I learned a sword recently. You can also defeat Liao, but Ichioshian has weird abilities. Jing has the power of sealing. I heard Michael also has a sword. Ethan's eyes immediately lit up. Please take a look at if you bet Grandpa to sue Grandma. Michael used his finger to make imaginary drawings on the rocks. Several crescent-shaped sword energy condensed out. Both of them were fascinated by the crescent mark on the rock. After a while, Zhu Yutian suddenly looked condensed. His sword energy is a little weird. A power that is not of this world. As his words fall, a thunder exploded in the sky. Mountain rain is falling. I loop the sword energy on the rocks until it disappears.